Born sinner, the opposite of a winner. Remember when I used to eat.
Greetings. Welcome to Powered by Nyame. I'm your guide and host, Kwesi Kunadu. On this episode, we tackle the concept of sin, or, according to Oxford Dictionary and other dictionaries like it, a moral transgression against what is considered divine law, essentially an act against religious or moral law. Right? So, let's begin with the story. Many years ago, approximately maybe 12, 11 or so, I began research on a healer in central Ghana in the town of Techiman named Nana Kofi Donko. And as I began to research him and learn more about his story over several years of deep digging, archives in the field, etc., I came across one story where Nana Kofi Donko is in the Holy Family Hospital, which is a religious organization, Catholic religious organization that operates one of the largest hospitals and fewest in the Techiman region since the 1960s into the present. And having gone through their archives and records, I'm greatly familiar with them. Nonetheless, while in the hospital, about some weeks or maybe a month or two before he transitioned on his way to the realm where the ancestors reside, I was told a story whereby a pastor or a catechist or somebody of a certain, Christian zeal came to his bedside while in the hospital. I think sometime around August in the early 90s. And this catechist or preacher or pastor, whoever he was, came to his bedside and began to proselytize him and tell him about the Christian theology and to essentially that Kofi Donko should essentially pray for forgiveness for all the sins he have committed in his life and so on and so forth. And as I was told this story, because the two persons that were there in the hospital were no longer available or with us, so this is third party relay of information. So as I was told this story, the person continued to say that, however, Nana Kofi Donko responded in this way and said that, well, I have not committed any sin. I have not done any wrongdoing to anyone. And so I don't know what you mean by the idea of sin. And even though I don't know, and therefore I can't tell you how that story ended, it wrapped up pretty much in that way. Essentially, the person telling this story wants to give me the idea that Nana Kofi Donko remained a so-called traditionalist, held to his indigenous beliefs to his last breath, and was not convinced by this overture made by this Christian fanatic. Now, what I want to say is this, right? Put aside whatever we may bring to the table in this moment, watching this video about sin and all the baggages that comes with it. Let's put those aside for the moment. What I want to poke at is this. You see, if we think about sin, or even put that word to the side, because of course in these terms can be loaded, in that we often think the idea or the concept or the meaning behind the word sin came into being with Christian theology. And of course, that is historically false. It's impossible. In other words, people were committing immoral acts against divine law, however conceived or considered, long before there was something called Christian theology or Judaism or whatever religious belief that may be, right? We're talking about ancient history here, right? In particular, ancient African history. And so put to the side our normative, our inherited beliefs about sin, right? Put that to the side, the church to the side, the synagogue to the side, the mosque to the side. And just think about transgression against divine law, however we consider that. Indeed, from that perspective, Nana Kofi Donko had sinned, right? That is, what is sin therefore? Through the optics of Kofi Donko and the story about him. This transgression happens every day, every moment of our human existence. What do I mean? I mean this. Every ill intent, every bad thought, every act of evil, wickedness, every disparaging remark, every offhanded and mean-spirited comment and remark or advice or words from your mouth, or kept in your head, every immoral act, right? You name it, rape, murder, assault, all of these fall within the umbrella or within the big tent of that transgression. So every second, the vast majority of us on this planet, or every minute, every hour, every day, every week, every month, every year, we commit that transgression, including yours truly, without a doubt. And so if we accept that we commit this transgression, and some of us might be aware because we think that I'm a good person, I don't hate anyone, I love everyone, and that may be true in your head. That is, whatever spirits that are tussling within that mind of yours and ours, right? You may tell yourself, or you may believe what you tell yourself, that you have not committed those things because you love everyone, right? It's all love. You don't hate anyone. You have done no wickedness. In fact, I heard an elderly person say that, I have done no wickedness. And this person who's approaching their 70s has done a lot of evil in that 70 years on this planet, on this tomb that we live called the earth, right? Think also about the last video on the idea of lunatic or lunacy, being crazy, being out of your mind. All of us are out of our minds, daily, hourly. What do you think road rage is? That we will stop our car, get out of the car, or stay in the car and cuss someone that we know from nowhere, right? With the most lethal venom that can come through our mouth. We lost our minds. Or your child wakes you up at 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning, right? Is crying or is in pain, right? And you don't want to get out of the bed, or you're tired and you're angry, anger boils up in you. Or your spouse or your partner or whatever the person may mean to you, get on your nerves. And we flip, right? We lose our heads, right? So we're all crazy, and therefore we all commit the act of that transgression that we may categorize as sin. And so if we think about that transgression against moral or divine law as being everyday, commonplace, it means that we're all sinners, right? We're all transgression, right? We all embody that transgression. We're all transgressors. And if we're transgressors, then who is holy? Who is sacred? Who is righteous? Who is impervious to this? The truth is, none of us. None of us are. If you think about it, right? Even the most devout, the most holiest, the most righteous transgress, right? They transgress against that divine law. In thought, in action, in deed, right? Even in the daily routines that we have that we may not consider a transgression, we do it. So then the question becomes, what do we do about all these minute, hourly, daily, weekly, monthly, yearly transgressions, right? Do they add up? Do they accumulate like a debt? And is there a repo man or some debt collector that comes after us, morally speaking anyway, and to deal with us for all our transgressions? Well, depending upon your belief system, most belief systems have some point of judgment, right? But I want to share something with you that you may not have considered before, which is that every day is our judgment. Remember that the earth is a large, gigantic graveyard. We walk in our graves every day, or the grave of somebody else, and soon to be our grave. And as such, it means that our acts of transgression, they do accumulate, and every day we are judged. Not by a court, not by a jury, right? Not of our peers or otherwise, but we're judged. That is, we go through a judgment, right? That's why some of us, hopefully most of us, have something called a conscience where we feel guilt or remorse because we recognize or accept or acknowledge the transgression in part or in whole. And that act of conscience, right, that act of remorse, that feeling of I've done something wrong, is what allows us, that opens the way for this thing called forgiveness. You might think, well, forgiveness of who? Right? Forgiveness from who? Again, depending upon whom and what you believe in, right? that may differ, that being the answer to that question. But here I want to suggest this, maybe even simpler than that, right? That is, regardless of what and to whom or whom you believe and your practices or your belief system is built around, forgiveness is the act of acknowledging, it's the gesture of accepting that we transgress on a second, minute, hourly, etc. basis. And it is in your prayers, libation, meditation, wherever you find your way to connect with the divine, both within and without the cosmos, you seek, whichever way you seek to be appropriate or deemed to be appropriate, forgiveness, right? Because the act of seeking forgiveness is much more powerful than the act of thinking that you are a good person and you love everyone and you only think of good and do good. The act of forgiveness is what allows us to go through our daily judgments, our momentary judgments, right? And to go through it and come out on the other side of that feeling much more strengthened, much more revitalized, much more intact, much more balanced, much more in stasis or equilibrium. That's when you know your forgiveness has essentially transformed itself into your blessing. Many of us don't receive our blessings because it's right behind door number one. But we find it so difficult to accept the fact that we transgress and do it so often that we think, well, nothing's wrong with me. I'm a good person. I do good. I donate, charity. I feed the homeless, etc., etc. But those acts pale in comparison to the internal gesture of forgiveness for the act and the fact of transgression against divine law, or, if you will, sin. And in doing so, that blessing waiting for you behind door number one opens up. Not only opens up, it opens up to other doors with other blessings waiting for you. And many of us are crippled or paralyzed by the fact that, why should I be thankful? Why should I be grateful? Yes, I should be thankful for life and etc. But let's say life is not going well. Let's say life is troublesome. Life is heavy. Life is hard, as it should be. Life is challenging, as it should be. What I'd be grateful for? What should I be thankful for? There's a lot to be, because your blessing is right around the corner of accepting that transgression and then seeking forgiveness through the means that you find fit to do so. And when you do that, you will be surprised, if not amazed, how your blessings begins to flow. Because it's waiting there for you. But it won't open the door by itself. Because you see, the way that our multi-layered world works, I'm talking about the physical world, the plants, trees behind me, or the people making noise across the way. In this layered world, spiritual, physical, material, energy, forces, etc., all bundled together in a package. In this world, right, our existence teetered on our ability to keep ourselves in equilibrium between these layers, because we shuffle between them. And that's why some people find it very hard to believe that I pray, I meditate, I pull out base, I do this and this. Why can't I get any blessings? Why can't I get what I asked for? Why can't I get this or that? In many ways, we are the roadblocks in our own way, in our path, because we don't do that simple gesture of accepting, acknowledging, and devouring transgression on secondly, minute, hourly, weekly, daily, yearly basis, and then, of course, seeking forgiveness, right? Because that takes humility. And many of us are much too what? Arrogant. Because we believe in ourselves that, hey, I'm a good person, right? Whatever that's supposed to mean. And that should be sufficient. But it isn't sufficient. That's why bad things happen to good people. So, What is the takeaway here? The takeaway is this, right? Rest your spiritual scale on accepting of the things we do, the things we think, the things we harbor, the things we entertain, that is tantamount to that transgression against divine law, and then seek forgiveness, but do it honestly, openly, from your soul, that is through that organ called your heart, but from your soul. And in doing so, you will see things open up and unfold for you in ways that you cannot believe. The impossible is possible, but oftentimes we are the hindrance. We are that proverbial concrete wall, that great wall between us and the blessing waiting for us. For Powered by Nyame, I've been your guide and host. Kindly put your comments and questions in the comment section below. Share your experiences, thoughts, etc. Until next time, stay well.